Championship. As you can see behind me right now, going out on track are the contenders for the Mazda MX-5 Championship for the first race of the season. And Jack Brewer's on pole position. Alongside him is Steve Foden, and then we have Michael Nibbs, last year's front-running contender Oliver Allwood, who came so close to the title and just missed out to last year's champion Joe Wigan. It's always a full grid of 40 cars. They're all heading out for the first race. It's going to be quite an exciting race, being one of the most popular and most best supported championships on the BRSCC roster. So, over to Andy McEwan, who'll be able to take you to the grid for this first race.
The cars head out then onto their green flag lap. I think we can take a look at how they're going to line up for this one then. Should be a really, really exciting race this. So many quick drivers racing with us this season. It's Jack Brewer, though, who's quickest of anybody, qualifying by just over a tenth and a half from Steve Foden second. Michael Nibbs and Ollie Allwood make up row 2 ahead of Brian Trott and Jason Greytrex. Adam Craig and Oliver Graham make the fourth row. Fraser Fennick and Stuart Simmons are next ahead of Owen Mills and Matt Pollard. Luke Pullen and Zach Oates are on the 7th row. Paul Bateman and Cameron Greytrex make up number 8. Richard Wotton, Tim Dorr, Bryn Griffiths and George King round out the top 20 ahead of Michael Green and Scott Leach. Richard Martin is to begin next in line. Row 13 of this mammoth grid is shared by Cian Donaldson and Oak Richardson, with Tom Mallett and Aston Wigley next up. Matthew Allen and Kevin Dengate are rounding out the top 30, and there are still 10 more to go. Ollie Walden and Graham Rumsey on the 16th row. Row 17, Michael Pearce and Jordan Pimley. Alan Hawkins and Nick Ledoyen are next ahead of Jonathan Fieldsend, Bo Parry, Brad Jones and Anthony Pettigrew at the back of the grid. So at the head of the field, Jack Brewer on pole from Steve Foden, likely to have a bit of a changing of the guard this year in the Mark 1 Championship, because so many of our frontrunners over the last few years have moved over into the Super Cup field. People like John Langridge, Will Blackwell-Chambers, Sam Smith, Adam Bessel, they've all moved over into the Super Cup. We've got a few of the former and recent race winners in Mark 1s that have stuck around. For example, Ollie Allwood, 4th on the grid, Brian Trott, 5th on the grid. I spoke to Brian yesterday, actually, and he said, although he doesn't usually do full seasons, he is hoping to stick around for a full campaign in 2021. Here's the white car with sort of orange and purple stripes down the middle of it in the green highlights that lines up on the inside of row number 3. A couple of years ago was actually leading the championship in the early stages before having to miss a few rounds mid-season. So Brian Trott, very, very quick driver, and will definitely be one of those that we're expecting to see up near the front. And you might remember Michael Nibbs was out on track not that long ago in a very similarly liveried Mark III Super Cup car. Number 82 lines up 3rd on the grid. Did he not start 3rd on the Super Cup grid, or was it 4th? He's 4th on the Super Cup grid and 3rd in the Mark 1 grid. So nothing if not consistent, Michael Nibbs, and the number 82 car looking to try and get on the podium this time in the Mark 1 race. Ollie Allwood, who lines up alongside him, is a former race winner as well, number 63. He was one of many drivers who had lap times disallowed for exceeding track limits in qualifying. He also had a spin in qualifying for the 69 of Brad Jones, which was essentially the only issue really in the Mark 1 session. Pretty good going, given the fact there are 40 of them out on track. And this is on top of the Clubman Championship as well, which is a whole separate thing. So running to the same regulations basically, but just over a one-day format. So the introduction of that Clubman Championship hasn't really affected the grid sizes too much for the Mark 1 Championship itself. Lap record wise, by the way, again, they haven't raced here for a number of years, the Mark 1, so we should see a new lap record, a 1:42.0 set by Alan Henderson back in 2014 is the time they're aiming to beat, but they were 2 or 3 seconds underneath that in qualifying. The race, though, is underway. We are racing for the first time in 2021 for the MX-5 Championship, and that rush towards Clervaux begins. It's an absolute swarm of them heading down towards the first corner. Adam Craig there, the number 29 car, who's a lot further up the order this year than he has been in the past, goes up the inside and then gets very sideways, gathers it together. More of them doing the same in the midfield. There's a bit of argy-bargy. Do they all survive? The tyres go flying. That was Richard Wotton that hit them in the black and yellow number 3. But somehow they're all still there. A few of them a bit bruised and battered maybe. Now 4 wide through the chicane is not going to work. Someone has to bail out of that, and no one did. Oh yes, someone does go across the tarmac runoff area on the left-hand side. Right, at the front of the field, it's Jack Brewer that still leads the way, but it's Michael Knibbs second, and that looked like Brian Trott third. Steve Foden there, the black and gold car, has dropped down to at least fourth. That might even be fifth position as they go towards the Jim Clark S's. So the order appears to be Brewer from Knibbs from Allwood, the top three, and no, Brian Trott is third, Allwood fourth, so Foden must be fifth. Yes, he is, as they head towards the top of the circuit. Then it's Adam Craig who's got himself ahead of the red and white number 33 there, Jason Greytrex, and he rather has his hands full because Stuart Simmons there in the white and purple AB Motorsport car is right behind him, and Simmons started 10th, so he has gained ground. Looks like Oliver Graham there, the number 24, has pretty much held position. The first lap of racing, though, in the books, and it is Jack Brewer that comes through the penultimate corner. There is that Ollie Graham, Stuart Simmons fight. Someone's going to dive up the inside into the hairpin, surely. Yep, there it goes. 263 is Fraser Fennick up the inside of Adam Craig. So one of the places Adam gained at turn one gets lost at the end of the lap. Jack Brewer then leads the opening lap here at Croft. Second place, Michael Knibbs. Third place for Brian Trott. So Brian Trott does gain 2 places from where he started. And this, though, is that fight for third. Ollie Allwood wants that third place back if at all possible. They clobber the curbs. Got still Steve Foden going with them. Oops, the cones go flying. Through the gravel goes one car there. Cones getting scattered around the track. They've survived all day, actually, those cones up at Clervaux, but 40 Mazda MX-5s ploughing through there at once was a bit too much to ask, wasn't it? Oh, in fact, one of them's got stuck under the car, look, so I'm not sure who that is. That might be, is that the number 22 of Owen Mills, possibly, that's run over the curbs? Change for third, Ollie Allwood up the inside of Brian Trott, so that's down at Tower Corner. A normal service regime then for Allwood, who's back ahead of Brian. Those two qualified fourth and fifth, but they both gained a place at the expense of the slightly sluggish start for Steve Foden. Top two, though, breaking away. Jack Brewer in the lead. Second place for Michael Knibbs. Further back, let's see if we can pick out that car that's picked up the cone. I'm fairly sure of the 22 of Owen Mills, because he's just behind Stuart Simmons. So yeah, that would be right. So it's Mills then who's carrying a bit of circuit furniture around with him. Ollie Graham here almost latching on fully to the back of Adam Craig's car. Craig defends the inside going into the complex, and I think should hang on to what is 7th place. But it's now a leading quintet, really, isn't it? Here, 5 cars together, and Fraser Fennick is going after them as well. So this is developing into a typical MX-5 race here, isn't it? Where no one can really get away from each other. It's nose to tail throughout the field. And they race across the start-finish line then, with the fastest lap being traded there between the top 3. Brewer had it, then Knibbs had it, then Ollie Allwood had it with a 1 minute 40.377, and that is then a new lap record here at Croft for the Mazda MX-5 Mark 1 Championship, who, just to reiterate, have not yet raced on this new-ish surface at Croft. It's a couple of years old now, but the Mark 1 Championship doesn't always come and race at Croft. When it does, it's always a popular addition to the calendar. They just haven't had the chance to try out this new surface yet, so we were always expecting that lap record to fall, and it could, and arguably should, fall even further before the end of the race. Bit of separation now in this lead pack, isn't there? There was a mistake, I think, for Brian Trott. Yeah, he's fallen behind Steve Foden now, so Foden into 4th place, and behind, Ollie Graham was having a big look up the inside of Adam Craig. How did that one work out? They're both still there, yes they are, and they're actually still in the same order, with Craig in 8th and Graham in 9th place. But yeah, that little battle between Foden and Trott, with Foden moving ahead of Brian, has allowed these top 3 to get away. And actually, Allwood isn't exactly on the tail of the top 2. So Michael Knibbs and Jack Brewer making a bit of a break here. Brewer the leader. Michael Knibbs right behind him. Oh, yes, really sideways through Sunny in and Sunny out. And drops off the edge of the curve slightly there on the exit of the second part of the corner. Just loses him a few car lengths to the leader. And yes, look, allows Allwood to get back onto his tail. So once again, 3 for the lead. Steve Foden warming to the task now, isn't he? Wasn't on his toes at the start, but he's worked his way up into 4th place, and he is gaining on the leading 3. Allwood up the inside of Michael Knibbs. There's always going to be contact at the hairpin. I think Knibbs just about avoided significant contact because he saw Allwood coming, but there was almost certainly a bit of paint traded there, and for nothing in the end, because Allwood didn't get through, and all it achieved was allowed Jack Brewer to pull out of the 1 second bracket now, just over a second the gap between 1st and 2nd, as they complete lap number 3 of the race. Fastest lap this time, and therefore lap record goes to Brewer, but I think we should get down into the 39s before the end of the race. The qualifying pace for Jack Brewer was a 39.9. and he's just done a 40.2 essentially, 40.198, but basically 1 minute 40.2, so a few more tenths to be found once he gets the tyres up to temperature. Adam Craig in the background there skips the chicane, the yellow car that was running in 8th position. Did he lose any positions as a result of that? Blue flag's waving for some reason. All of these cars should be on the lead lap, but Craig possibly going slowly after having shortcut the chicane. Stuart Simmons, Ollie Graham was the car right behind him, and Graham, I can see in the background, has gone through now, so Ollie Graham into 8th place ahead of Adam Craig. As the pace now starts to settle into a bit of a rhythm, top 4 with this gap back to Brian Trott, who's just strangely not off the pace exactly, but not on the pace we normally see him running at. And Simmons, look, has lost out again now to Adam Craig. I assure you, in the background, I saw that Simmons was up alongside Craig. You can see Graham has gone through, but Adam Craig has at least stemmed the flow at just 1 position lost. And someone's in the Farmers Field at Tower. I wondered how long that would take. It is number 70, which is Michael Pearce, who qualified 33rd, and now he's finding that ditch that the marshal was telling him about there. If you go off at speed, you sort of sail over the ditch, but then as you try and sort of crawl your way back on the track, you can easily end up falling into it and getting stuck. So it's as good as a gravel trap in that way, in that once you're off the road, it's hard to get back on. Fraser Fenwick up the inside of Brian Trott, who doesn't seem to have the straight line speed required there, does he? Fenwick just drives straight past him and moves into 5th position. So Fraser Fenwick into the top 5 now, having qualified down in 9th, so he's one of the drivers that's coming forwards rather than backwards in this one. Runs very wide through Hawthorne though, and Brian Trott sees a chance to get it straight back. He's up the inside into the chicane, and he's gone through, so Brian Trott then moves ahead once again of Fraser Fenwick, and all of that jockeying for position is bringing Jason Greatrex onto their coattails. So a 3-way fight here for 5th position, developing quite nicely. They turn their way through Tower Corner once again, ticking towards half race distance, then 12.5 minutes or so to go. And Michael Nibbs only matching Jack Brewer ahead of the field, so the gap is just over that 1 second still. In fact, Brewer was fractionally quicker, even though it was a personal best for Michael Nibbs. So Fraser Fenwick is thinking now, I've found a way past Brian Trott once, what do I have to do to make it stick? Well, not running wide at Hawthorne is probably a good place to start. He made the move down the pit straight, but then that little mistake was all the invitation that Brian Trott needed to move back into that 5th spot. And Jason Greatrex now very much a part of this as well, which makes Fraser Fenwick's job doubly difficult, because he's got not only the job of trying to attack Brian Trott, but he's also trying to keep one eye on the mirror to see what Jason Greatrex is doing. There go the leading force. You can see the gaps. It was 1 second. It's come down this time, so that was a bit better. 2 tenths faster there for Michael Nibbs. He's getting back into proper slipstream range. Again, look though, Brian Trott is down on straight line speed. Jack Brewer pulls right onto his tail, but wasn't fully alongside that time, so he didn't commit to a move at Clervaux. You don't really outbrake people into Clervaux, but if you're already alongside, you can sort of force the issue at the apex, but you're not going to lunge up the inside of them from a long way back like you can at places like Tower or Sunny or the Hairpin. That's more of a corner you don't really want to go side by side through. You don't do a lot of braking. You carry more speed through that first corner than you think. Michael Nibbs carrying some speed now though, because he's closing in, and Fraser Fenwick was up the inside of Brian Trott for 5th position. Let's see, did he get it? Did he get it? No, still Brian Trott ahead, so we can focus on the leaders then as they go through the Jim Clark S's. Pairing off now, aren't they? 2 for the lead, 2 for 3rd, and then, well, 3 for 5th position. But Fraser Fenwick has once been ahead of Brian Trott. He almost got him again then at Tower. There'll be a bit of frustration starting to set in, I think, now for Fraser, who thought about going up the inside at Sunny. Brian Trott saw that one coming, carries good speed through the turn. Keeps that immaculate livery 263 car behind. I think that is a new livery on Fraser's car for this year. It looks very, very good indeed. Leaders come through. Look how close Michael Nibbs is now to Jack Brewer. So we saw this in the Super Cup race, didn't we, earlier on, where Jack Harding, once he got within a second of the race leader, Patrick Fletcher, was able to take that next second out of him very quickly because of the slipstream. And I think the same is true here of Michael Nibbs catching Jack Brewer. So game on for the race lead now. We move into the second half of the race, just under 10 minutes to go. And Jack Brewer now has a little bit of work to do again. He's broken free of Michael Nibbs once, but this time Nibbs isn't under any pressure from Ollie Allwood behind, so it's going to be harder to shake him off now. There you can see Allwood in the background starting to think about what Steve Foden's doing behind him. Still Trott 5th. We've had some changing behind them because Adam Craig has dropped 4 positions on that lap. Adam Craig falls down to 13th place. Not quite sure what happened there. I also spotted we had yellow flags at the complex, but I can't actually tell you what that's for. In fact, there are yellow flags right the way through the complex, so I don't know why the yellow flag is there at the final couple of corners. Possibly a car off in the final sector. We'll try and find out who it is. Could be debris, I suppose, on the track, but I suspect... Well, let's see, what can the timing screen tell us? Who's gone missing? Luke Pullen apparently has gone missing, so too, what we know about number 70, Michael Pearce. He's off digging for crops down at Tower, so I think it must be number 38 that we've lost at the complex. Exactly where he's gone, I'm not entirely sure, but that appears to be the car that is off towards the end of the lap. Yellow flags then through the final few corners, and that's the part of the circuit the leaders are heading to now, and that's doubly frustrating for Michael Knibbs because he's in prime attacking position as they go into the left-hander at the start of the complex, and could have thought about attacking Jack Brewer for the lead properly there had the yellow flags not been out. They're back in again now through the hairpin. And is Ollie Allwood getting closer? Oh, there we go. Is that an AB Motorsport car? Yeah, that will be Pullen then off. He's pulled off going into the hairpin rather than gone off, so mechanical issue rather than a mistake. Right, leaders through, but I'm now interested in the gap between second and third. That was 1.7 seconds, and it's still 1.7 seconds. No, it's 1.3 seconds now, excuse me. So it did come down, Allwood to Knibbs, and that's without Knibbs and Brewer really fighting each other too hard. So Ollie Allwood finding a second win now as we move into the middle part of the race. And bringing with him Steve Foden. Fraser Fennick, by the way, has now got the better of Brian Trott for the second time, but he was half a second ahead of Brian at the start of the lap, so I think he's probably done enough now to make 5th place his own, but he's not going to be able to catch the leaders because they're 5 or even 6 seconds nearly ahead of them now. Still Trott 6th, Jason Graytrek 7th, Ollie Graham 8th, 9th Simmons, 10th Mills, as the leaders head through the Jim Clark S's, and Michael Knibbs once again starts to build for an attack now. The yellow flags have gone in at the complex, so he's free to overtake wherever he likes now. But that rather depends on where Jack Brewer leaves him the open door to go through, and so far Jack hasn't made a single mistake, has he? Jack Brewer driving extremely well in this one, defending under intense pressure from Michael Knibbs behind him, who of course already has a race under his belt, doesn't he, this today, because he was out in that Super Cup race earlier on. So Jack Brewer works his way through. 7th in the championship last year was Jack Brewer. Again, a shortened campaign, but they still got into double figures, I think, as far as numbers of races in 2020. Joe Wigan was the champion. He's moved on to other things this year, though. Ollie Allwood, therefore, the highest placed returning driver from last season. He finished 2nd, and he's running 3rd in this race. 1.9 seconds off the lead now, but again, was sort of matching these two last time was Allwood. So if at any point over the remaining 6.25 minutes, these two really start delaying each other, Allwood could get right back into this, and Foden as well. Brian Trott, I can tell you, is losing more ground. He's down to 7th place now, because Jason Graytrex has gone past him into 6th, and also within the top 10, Owen Mills, despite dragging that cone around behind him, has got past Stuart Simmons. So the AB Motorsport car's fading a bit here, actually, as we go through the race. So just under 6 minutes to go then, and Jack Brewer has 6 more minutes to try and keep Michael Knibbs behind him. It seems the impossible task, because Knibbs is just so close to him, and you can't imagine the pressure that you're under as a racer when you've got a car filling your mirrors like this. I mean, there is often only a foot between the rear of Brewer's car and the front of Knibbs' car. If you slide even a foot or so wide of the apex, Knibbs is going to be on the inside, and once he's there, it's probably job done. So Jack Brewer has to be inch perfect now in the remaining few laps in this race in order to keep Michael Knibbs behind. This is the part of the circuit Knibbs seems good, isn't it? Coming out of sunny, he always forces Brewer to defend into the complex, but it's very hard to really force the move through there. 3rd place is still Allwood, Steve Foden 4th, and they're now dropping back again. So that little mid-race challenge from Allwood seems to have faded slightly. He's relying now on the leaders really setting to it and going side by side. If they start doing that, then he might get back into it. But for now, 3rd place as good as it's likely to get. Across the line they go again then. 9 laps in the books, 4 3/4 minutes to go, and it is Jack Brewer trying to hang on to the race victory. Knibbs 2nd, Allwood 3rd, Foden 4th, we had changing behind. Yeah, another place lost for Brian Trott. So what's wrong here with Brian Trott? Qualified 5th, was in the hunt early on, and now he's dropped down into 8th position. And Stuart Simmons has gone back past Owen Mills. So lots of to and fro battling through the field, where one driver gains a position and then instantly seems to give it back. That's not been the case at the front though. Brewer's led from the start in this one, never by a huge margin. He had about a 1.1 second gap in the middle part of the race, but now, well, ever since about halfway through, it's been no more than a couple of car lengths. Both Ollie Allwood and Steve Foden there drop a wheel over the edge of that curb through Tower. First half of the lap for Brewer looks good, doesn't it? It's through this section that Michael Nibbs gains, partly through the slipstream, maybe on the high-speed section, but I think he's doing most of it through the corners, through Sunny and into the complex. Steve Foden here facing a very similar challenge. He's got a face full of Ollie Allwood and just can't get through. These cars, of course, all identical in performance. In theory, it's a very tightly regulated championship, and so it is all down to the drivers being able to find an advantage over their opposition, and that's clearly not easy to do when they're all operating on such an even level, which is exactly what we wanted to see, because with so many of our quick drivers moving on to Super Cup now, there was a slight concern maybe that there would maybe be one or two left that were really quick and then everyone else left scrabbling to keep up. But we've got some good competition here throughout the field, with Brewer and Nibbs particularly evenly matched. Nibbs now dropping back again though. It's nearly a second advantage with probably 2 laps to go. So Nibbs has got to now do the hard job of catching Brewer and then the even harder job of getting past him again. And I'm just not sure he's got anything left in the tank. Allwood and Foden's going to run to the flag though, I think. So are the battles behind. Ollie Graham is now ahead of Jason Greytrek, 6th position for him. Wouldn't mind seeing that battle for 5th actually, because every time they come across the line they're in a slightly different order. So the leaders come down into Tower then, no change for the lead, a possible change for 3rd, although Steve Foden with a bit of a lock-up there. That was an opportunistic look at the inside, or an optimistic look I should say, at the inside, rather than a genuine overtaking challenge, I think. But it could be incoming. Leaders go through, an ever-increasing margin between them. I think Michael Nibbs might have settled for 2nd place here. Head through Barcroft and Sunny again, and Steve Foden almost up the inside of Ollie Allwood, who's almost on the grass as they go into Sunny, and he's gone wide, and this could be the opportunity Steve Foden's been looking for. He's got the nose on the inside, but that camber through the middle part of Sunny in just saved Ollie Allwood there. He carried way too much speed into the corner because he was preoccupied with the challenge Foden had just made through Barcroft, and if it hadn't been for the camber in the road, he'd have probably been off the road. But as it was, he not only stayed on the black stuff, but carried good speed through the corner and was able to keep the 77 car behind. But Foden is all over him, goes to the outside into the hairpin, tries to cut back to that late apex, but as we've seen in all of the races today, it's very hard to do that because you're on full lock through the corner. You can't physically make the car turn any tighter and carry the speed off the turn. So last lap then begins, 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go, so this will be the final lap of the race, and Jack Brewer is now 1.3 seconds to the good. This is the biggest margin he's had all race long. He's set a fastest lap of 1 minute 40.198, which will comfortably be the new lap record by nearly 2 seconds, beating Alan Henderson's 7-year-old record from 2014. Jack Brewer having already broken the qualifying record as well earlier on this morning. Steve Foden and Ollie Allwood there side by side for 3rd. So Allwood was going to the inside to cover from Foden, as both Brewer and Nibbs have a bit of a moment there through Tower. But what's going on for 3rd place? It is Allwood still in front. So Ollie Allwood then staying in P3. But by the skin of his teeth, you've got to say, if he hangs on to that to the flag, that is a mighty impressive defensive job. Jack Brewer then in the lead of the race, and this has been not a dominant performance, much more dominant victory than it has been actually, I think, because he's likely to win this race by over a second, but as we've seen, it's never been more than half a second between them really until these last couple of laps. They both go around the outside of one of the back markers there. That I think was the 85 car, wasn't it? That was doing its best to get out of the way of Pettigrew, Anthony Pettigrew, making his debut in the championship. But across the start-finish line comes the race leader, and now Race winner in round number 1 of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship for 2021. It's Jack Brewer victorious, Michael Nibbs in second position, and Ollie Hallwood just about hangs on to third place. Now, this is the real battle. 5th position, Fraser Fennick is going to hang on, I think. Yes, from Ollie Graham in 6th, so he's got ahead of Jason Greytrex on the last lap. I told you they keep changing positions. Greytrex 7th, Brian Trott is 8th, Simmons in 9th. Just from Matt Pollard in 10th position. Yes, then Owen Mills, Adam Craig, Paul Bateman behind, the rest of them all coming through. Good race there for the MX-5 Championship then, and great battles all the way through the field. But ahead of the field, it was all about Jack Brewer and Michael Nibbs, and it's Brewer that comes out victorious by 1.8 seconds. Like I say, that doesn't really do the race justice. Michael Nibbs really pushing him hard there, and Nibbs will be happy with his day's work, I think, won't he? Second place in that race, and Michael Nibbs finished the Super Cup race earlier on in 5th place, having run inside the top 3 or 4 in the early stages.
Well, there we go. 2 Mazda MX-5 races today, 2 first-time winners. We had it in the Super Cup with Patrick Fletcher, and that man there, Jack Brewer, who I know has been waiting for that for a long time. And again, the look on his face absolutely says it all, but I think I have to quickly dive in there and have a chat and see how he's feeling. Jack, 2 first-time winners in Mazdas today, so I know that's been a long time coming. I think the look on your face says it all. You're made up with that.
I can't believe it. The boys behind me, the Tucker boys, just have done the best job all weekend. The car is spot on. It looks brilliant. Airborne have done a brilliant job of the car, and yeah, I'm over the moon with it. I can't believe I won it.
It was a close one because obviously Michael was giving you a lot of pressure, particularly in the second half of that race, but he managed to get a small gap towards the end, so
yeah,
that seemed to help out.
He closed up quite a lot, sort of in the middle part of the race, and then he made a mistake through turn 2, and it just gave me that little bit of rest that I needed more than anything. But yeah, so I'm over the moon. Massive thank you to Project as well for sponsoring me, and Performance One Clothing, as well as obviously Airborne, I already said. I'm over the moon with it.
No pressure, but you got to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, could be right.
Quiet confidence, I like it. Now listen, go and celebrate tonight. Well done. Yes, your first win MX-5's top class win. I know you've been waiting for that for ages.
Yeah, fingers crossed for more.
Good stuff. Well done, mate. Congratulations. Right, let's now move swift on. Let's have a chat with Michael Nibbs in second place. Michael, if we bring you over. That's not bad. Is that your best result in Mark 1s?
It certainly is, yeah. My first podium, so...
Fantastic. Good stuff. You pushed Jack all the way there. That was very close at its points.
Yeah. I just stuck his bumper the whole, from the beginning to the end. But I was thinking there might be a last lap dice, but it didn't happen.
Car seems well sorted this year.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, thanks to NHA Motorsport for me and Aidan Jones.
So now you've got the daunting prospect of being on the front row for the second race. You've got to try and beat him down to turn 1 now.
I'm going to give it a good go.
Good stuff. Well done, Michael. Best result. Congratulations. Great job.